When this morning's guest ran for public office in 1994, she said she'd work hard, play fair, and stay honest. She's done just that. Meet her, coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at the Waccamaw Community Foundation at 3655 South Kings Highway in Murrells Inlet, South Carolina. We're focused on Horry County Council, and we're visiting with its chairman, or really the people of Horry County, and so many other things. Liz Gilland. Good morning, Liz.
Good morning, Greg.
Thank you so much. You know, Sherry, our producer, had laid out a title there in the Herald of focusing on the people of Horry County, and obviously you are focused day in and day out. I'm sorry we're in Georgetown County at this moment filming, but the Waccamaw Community Foundation has a deep tie to both Horry and Georgetown County.
And what an asset for both counties.
That it is, very definitely. A great location here, and Sam and Cindy Scalise were instrumental in opening the door to make this location happen. I think you said the old sea captains.
That's right.
Yeah.
The Murrells Inlet Sea Captains.
That's right, the Murrells Inlet Sea Captains, very definitely. Thank you so much for coming in. Have you finished all your shopping? A week from today is the big day.
No, I never do, right until, I'm one of those that may just run out Christmas Eve. And in fact, several years ago, I did that when the old Brindle store was here, locked my keys in my car on Christmas Eve.
No.
Not an ideal situation.
Oh, yeah, that old Brindle's out near the Waccamaw Bowling now. Yeah,
yeah. I was picking up a few last minutes. So
is that right?
I'll try not to do that again. I learned my lesson.
Yes, you've made that trip quite a few times from Conway to the beach and back.
Oh, I have done it in this job up to 3 times a day.
Oh, come on.
I have. There have been times when I've had a morning meeting, a middle of the day meeting, and an evening something. And that's a lot of back and forth on 501.
You probably know a couple of shortcuts then. Have you thought to let anyone know about them, or they wouldn't be shortcuts if you told anyone?
I use 544 and then take 31. And even though it's more miles, at least I can keep moving.
Right.
And I'd rather, be driving than be sitting in traffic. So
oh, yeah.
I try to not add to the problem on 501.
It wasn't long ago that 544, you would not have been taking it. It just wouldn't have had that ability to get down to Surfside or that area.
There are other people who have other favorites from the Ride 1 plan, Grissom or 22 or 31, but my favorite is 544 because I have used that since I was in high school, because we've had a beach house in Garden City since I was 17.
Oh, yeah.
And so much... I'm back and forth so much, but that's my route of choice now.
Do you still have that home in Garden City?
Do, yes. And have not spent the night there in 2.5 years,
Oh,
unfortunately.
no.
Yeah. Well, I've been caring for my mom, and she's in a nursing home now, and I'm out there almost every night at bedtime for her. And I'm just so busy that I just know that it's there, and one of these days I'll get to enjoy it again.
Right, yes, yes.
But it's always been a little sanctuary in the midst of the political stuff.
Yeah, Liz, do you have brothers and sisters here in the area?
I have a sister married to an orthopedic surgeon in Georgetown, Jane Skinner, and I have a brother, but he's in heaven. And he was killed in an automobile accident back when he was right before turning 21. But I don't leave him out because I can just see him going, well, what about me?
Right. Yes,
so
yes.
I did that once right after he was killed, and I thought, I'm not ever going to do that again. So miss my brother. We'll see him again one day.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And your parents, obviously, you said your mother's still living in a rest home. Is your father?
She's 93. My father passed away a few years ago at 88. He was he was a surgeon back when they did general surgery, not 1,000 different specialized surgeries, surgical preferences and choices. But he and Dr. Ed Proctor were the only 2 surgeons in the entire county for a number of years, and there was only one hospital, and it was in Conway. So I still have an old map that I found in his office that was framed, and I thought, why would he have an Horry County map? But it shows, it's an old DOT map from the 60s, and shows every little dot, every little square is a home, every little church sign is a sign for every church on all the roads in Horry County. So it's fascinating historically.
Wow. Yeah.
But that's what he used when he did house calls.
That is fascinating.
And he has an old leather.
Take a look at that sometime. Yeah.
He has an old leather doctor's bag, that when the Horry County Museum gets its new museum, I hope to contribute that as just a slice of life back when doctors used to make house calls.
I love just that idea of a map that would have all the houses at any time. Of course, today you just couldn't do anything like that and be able to look at it. But
it wasn't in the cities, but it was. Little, I mean, you can see 544, the old 544 in the 60s, where every little crook and turn was, and all the houses and all the churches.
And he traveled to a lot of homes.
Oh, he was almost always gone at night, it seems, and on weekends. He'd get a phone call and we'd know, Pop's gone. So.
Did he ever carry you or your brother or sister out with him? Or
no, he
your
didn't.
Mom?
Mom was a stay-at-home mom,
right?
And she was there, and we stayed, and he went, and that was just the way it always was.
Mm-hmm.
But it was rare that we had an entire supper together at night, because the phone would ring and he'd have to run,
Liz.
or he'd be operating first in the morning, and I remember seeing him chug he put a raw egg, like one of those old Steve McQueen or something in the movies thing, raw egg in a shot glass sort of thing, a little small glass with a few salt, chug, and that was his breakfast, and he was out the door.
Oh, come on.
Oh, yeah.
You can picture that.
I can. He did that time after time. Yeah.
Wow, Liz.
Yeah. But he loved being a doctor, and I'll show my age by saying he was the old Marcus Welby type. If you remember that kind, soft-spoken, slow-talking, would explain everything to the patient.
Right.
Would
Good
be
for him.
just gentle, and he loved to teach as he did what he was doing, and he was, he was just a great doctor and a great dad.
And as one of only two then at the time, then there was, of course, you hear so oftentimes now for doctors who have children of their own, they're never involved in helping to care for their own children. They want to let other doctors do it. We had a guest on recently, and of course, hearing him talk about he would never, as an obstetrician himself, never perform clearly on his own kids. But for y'all, where there were only two doctors, I guess there were times where he'd have to care for y'all as well.
Well, actually, we grew up fairly healthy, and other than my tonsils, I never had to see a surgeon growing up, and I don't think Jane or John did either.
Is that right?
So we were, we didn't have, no appendicitis or any of that, so we were fortunate. But Conway was the most incredibly wonderful place to grow up. Yeah. And I really did have a foot on both sides of the waterway, because we would move. That was when Myrtle Beach was tiny.
Right.
And there were little Conway enclaves. Folks would build a little cottage and move over for the summer. Mm-hmm. This was in our neighborhood, a little Conway enclave around 22nd Avenue South on the ocean. And it's back when we first built it, and I don't remember this, but it was a dirt road. But then they paved it, and it was 2 lanes. And then I think it was still 2 when we sold it when I was in the 9th grade. But we had a little Conway area, and we would move over the first week in May.
Right.
And those of us kids would pile in a car with whichever daddy was going to work first or operating first or whatever, and then one of the moms would come pick us up. And we would move back home the end of September. So I was 5 months, 7 months, Myrtle Beach and Conway, growing up. So I've got there's long been the divide, it seems. But I never understood it, because I kind of had the waterway, and I never understood it because I had a real love for both, having experienced both in such a wonderful way. But Conway was just the most idyllic, safe, wonderful, small southern town to grow up in. Where you felt free, and you were free, and you could be a kid, and it wasn't a scary time.
Right.
And I could ride my bike all over town, and we could
Conway
play out.
still that way?
Very much so.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
It is. I'm not sure anything is quite as wonderful as it was, and those were the halcyon days. So maybe in reality it wasn't quite as good as memories. But the world's just a scarier place now. But Conway is still a wonderful, quintessentially Southern town.
That it is, absolutely.
And there are a lot of things that are even better now than it was when I was a kid. So I love that little town.
Have you remained in Conway throughout, Liz? You left for a while.
No. Well, I graduated from high school.
Sure.
Yeah. I graduated from high school and went to Columbia College in Columbia. It was a women's school. And then went to Carolina for grad school.
Right.
Taught a couple of years in Columbia. Finished my graduate degree. Went to Furman for a few years. I really liked education. I liked being with kids and studying and working together. And I was a guidance counselor and English teacher in high school, and then I was a coordinator of residence life at Furman, and I loved being with the kids. That's in Greenville.
Right.
And then right down the hall from my apartment, in the women's dorm, my first year there was a kid from Nashville named Amy Grant.
Amy Grant.
We got to be great friends, and I was
yeah.
back and forth to Nashville with her and visiting with her and her family, and then eventually I moved there.
You moved to Nashville? Wow.
To work in the contemporary Christian music business.
Right.
Which was...
Had she already gotten into it at that point?
She was.
Yeah.
She had just recorded her first album when she came to Furman. She recorded it starting at 16. And she was just right on the edge of being huge. And by the end of her second year, she was. And then she transferred to Vandy because that's where home and work was.
Right.
And she was flying out every weekend from Furman, which is not an easy school. And weekend is usually when the kids caught up on their studies. So it was tough for her. So
she was no exception to that.
No.
Yeah.
So when I moved there, when she left, I thought, I'm going to do this too. And so I moved to try to promote the music that I had just fallen in love with, because it combined my love for music with my Christian belief. And I thought, what a great way to spread the message. What great, clean, wonderful music, but nobody's heard about it in South Carolina. It seems there were no contemporary Christian radio stations, and other than the college campuses, you just didn't hear it very much. So I thought, I'm going to go be a part of this.
Yeah.
And I want to help this to spread. I want the folks back in Conway to hear this music on the radio.
So you went to Nashville to help obviously make that happen.
Yeah.
And helped get folks down here in the Palmetto State obviously interested in it, even from Nashville.
I tried.
Right.
And then when I moved back home, I was there for 10 years.
Right.
I was very plugged into my church, to my community. I had a great group of friends, and I thought I'd be there forever. Got involved in mission work while I was there. Did a number of trips to Haiti. I went to China to smuggle Bibles. I took a year off.
You smuggled Bibles?
I was a smuggler.
Into China?
I broke the law.
My Lord,
yeah.
That's your one instance where you'll happily claim I broke the law,
I did.
Right.
And at that time, you could have churches, Christian churches in China, but they were state-run churches, and you had to get on a list. They took a list of who became a member and who went. And they were right out of that horrible cultural revolution of the 60s and late 60s. And nobody wanted to be on a government list, because if the leaders changed, the new leader might say, I don't like those Christians, get me those lists and let's put them all in jail. Because that's what they had done to, or worse. And so home churches, house churches were growing up. And while they could have Bibles and buy Bibles, they would cost a year's salary, and Chinese people could hardly afford it. So there was a real thriving, and there may still be, but there was a real thriving underground taking in the Bibles,
and these
smuggling
were Bibles
activity.
Written in Chinese.
They were in Mandarin Chinese.
In Mandarin.
Yeah. Because the one good thing that came out of the revolution was, instead of 1,000 different dialects, every little area and village having its own dialect, the dictator said, we will have one national language, and it will be Mandarin. So they all still had their dialects, but they all had to learn Mandarin in the schools. That way you could print one Bible, and everybody would be able to read it.
Absolutely.
So that was a
must have been a powerful experience,
thing.
and probably pretty. Was that scary at all? I mean, knowing that obviously that there was just that thought that clearly a later dictator even could have happened while you were there, for that matter.
We planned to go in one time and take huge bundles of Bibles, but for a story that would take too long to tell, we got caught our first time in, and they let us go in because they still wanted us to go in and spend money, but they confiscated all the Bibles. And there were 4 of us out of a group of about 18 who when we finally regrouped at the hotel, said there's got to be a way. And we found out there was an overnight boat from Canton, which was Guangzhou. The name had been changed to Guangzhou. Overnight boat back to Hong Kong. So 4 of us raced across town, left our hotel rooms and had paid for it and everything, raced across town, got a ticket to on this overnight boat. I shared a cabin with a little ancient Chinese woman. She spoke no English.
Wow.
I was the foreign devil, which is the colloquialism for the white folks that would come over there. And but we got along just great, and woke up in Hong Kong Harbor, went through the process of getting a new visa in a day. They got us new Bibles. We wore them the second time. We had, the men had like flak jackets with the Bible, with pockets all over. And the other woman and I had long skirts to our ankles, and sweaters, like vests,
Right.
and we had Bibles all over, and you had to pace yourself walking, or your skirt would start doing this, and it was real obvious. It was kind of
bet. Yeah.
And I had my knapsack in one bag, or my pocketbook in one sack, and my camera in the other, so that no one would bump into me, because they would feel that there was something strange
Right.
about that woman's
Of this
skirt,
woman,
and
yeah.
and a big sweatshirt over it, so that I just looked like a heavy American. But when we went through the second time, and then we did it again, but the second time through, when they had warned us that we had picked the worst entryway into China from Hong Kong.
Right.
More people got caught at that one for Bibles than any other. I was so afraid of being strip searched and of losing that as a way of smuggling Bibles in, because it would tip them off, that when I had to sign my signature twice at that checkpoint, I couldn't read my own handwriting. I couldn't read my own signature. For the first time in my life, I was so scared.
Yeah.
But we were
shaking.
successful and did it a second time, and it was, so
Wow.
it was an experience, but it was good.
That's a fascinating
good
story. That's a fascinating story. And please forgive me, I misspoke when I said we're talking about Horry County Council. We're really talking
Oh, my
about you
goodness.
as
I
I
guess
open
we
up,
are.
because of course it is you are so inextricably linked to that. But of course, so many folks link you to your family. They link you to contemporary Christian music. They link you to the Sunday morning show, which I think you were about to talk about.
Well, yeah, I do tangential things.
No,
I'm sorry
that's great.
to
And
taking you
forgive
off
me,
on
I
that.
opened up saying we're talking about Horry County Council, and I thought, my Lord, it's
Oh my
Liz
goodness.
Gilland. That's right, yeah.
Well, when I came back home and I was doing a variety of things, trying
Right.
to figure out what in heaven's name, because when I got home to help my mom, she broke her hip. I moved
Your
home
mother
for
broke
3
her
or 4
hip.
months.
Yeah, right. You were just
Summer
going to be
of
here for a
90.
couple months, yeah.
I felt like I was supposed to stay, and it was the worst news I had had in a while, and I got it just through that feeling you get.
Right.
I got that leading that I was supposed to say, and I thought, what in heaven's name am I supposed to do in Horry County?
Right.
And
Even
because I
though both
love
of them
this
start
place.
with an H, that's right. Heaven
Yeah.
and Horry, that's
but,
right.
I just didn't know. But one of the things I finally did after working at a realtor's office and being a night manager at Kirk's Ice Cream Parlor and
good.
a variety of things,
Yeah.
I went into Sunny 106.5, the oldie station, and proposed that I do a Sunday morning show playing contemporary Christian music, because I
Right.
had the CDs.
Sure.
I knew the artists. I knew the stories behind the song.
Right.
I'd sell the ads. I would do everything if they'd just give me the 3 hours. And they had just happened to have just lost a 3-hour program.
Oh, come
A
on.
syndicated program. And we're trying to figure out what to plug that spot with. And I walked out grinning and scared to death, because they had given me 3 hours on Sunday morning, but I knew nothing about being a DJ.
Yeah, sure.
So I learned. I figure
Wow.
if somebody can learn it, I can too.
Right,
So I
right.
learned to do it, and my motto was, and I did it just very Liz. I was silly
Very
and funny
Liz,
and
yeah.
nerdy sometimes, and
Ah.
my slogan was, all the music I love to hear. If you want to hear a song, call me. If I like it, I'll play it.
Right.
I mean, I
right.
was that, just,
Yeah,
I had
yeah.
fun with it. And it became an incredibly popular show. I had an amazing audience.
For,
and,
you said for 8 years, Liz.
Yeah.
Wow.
I
So
did it
from
6 years
90 to
there, and then
90
I did it another couple of years
Right.
at 103, a country station.
Right, sure.
But it became for a time when Arbitron does the ratings, and that's when everybody's trying to do their best, because you get rated like Nielsen's with television. For a time, I was the number one produced show, the number one show,
Right.
not just a DJ on playing records, but a show that had certain time and stuff in this market, which was just
More than
incredible.
Banana Jack, more than Howard Stern, more than all
Yeah.
the... Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to
So
tell
it was-
remind
that was-
Banana Jack of that. Yeah, next
Oh
time
yeah, I
see
should do
it.
that too.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but that was, it was just, I enjoyed it. I
Yeah.
loved it, and now we have K-Love, and we've got
Right.
somebody else doing
Sure.
Christian music
Contemporary
on Sunday
Christian
mornings.
music, sure.
But at the time there was nothing, and I just missed hearing it, and I missed people. I missed being able to introduce
Exposing
people
it
to
to
it and
others. Sure,
exposing
sure.
it, and so I feel like it did what it was intended to do.
Right,
It kind of
right.
got things rolling down here.
Have you
And I loved
maintained some of those bonds with Nashville, or with Amy Grant for that matter, with
Yeah.
other friends from Furman who may have gone with you up to Nashville or followed
I
you?
have. In fact, I talked with Amy just a couple of nights ago.
Right,
And
right.
we stay in touch. And I watched her on Oprah. She and Vince last
Oh,
week.
yeah,
and
yeah.
went to their wonderful wedding a few years ago.
Wow,
so.
yeah.
But I don't get to go and visit like I used to.
Sure.
Because this job is just...
Because you're with your mother every night, obviously.
And the job takes the rest of my life.
Right,
So
right.
I can't travel
it is
to do personal things.
Of course not. It's a big job. It's not a 6-month job, a 9-month job. It's not like when you were growing up that you were 7 months in Conway.
Yeah.
This is a year-round thing,
and
Liz.
it's not a part-time job either. It's
it's
part-time
not?
pay.
I thought it was it's part-time pay.
It started off being a part-time job
Right.
when Horry County was poking along slowly in the 70s, but it is so not part-time that I cannot even hold another job, another part-time job to make ends meet. I live on my $25,000 a year.
Wow.
And that may seem like a lot of money to some folks, but as those folks know, it's hard to stretch a dollar. And when we get to the budget each year and we talk about increases in taxes, I'm affected like everybody else out there.
Sure,
and I'm having to look at the bottom line and see how that will affect me. And so it's, you just, in the position I have, I do the best I can, trying to look out for everybody with the big picture of county. This is a whole county. I'm not just looking out for the coast. I'm not just looking out for the rural communities. I have to look out at what is the greater good for the whole, and if I can lay down every night and think I've done the best I can do, then I can sleep, and I've done it the right way.
Is there another council person who commits like you do? Of course, the chairman has to commit more time. Is there anyone who commits that amount of time, not to spear or to single anyone out, but is there anyone that takes it upon themselves to look at it not as a part-time job, because it really, I mean, some folks would have to maintain a career to, if they've got a big family to support or otherwise, they'd have to, but at the same time still serve their constituents well, not to ask, I mean, but you don't even have to name names. Is there anyone who...
I'll give you an example, though. I worked what I thought was really hard when I was a regular council member.
Right.
Went to all the committee meetings, whether I was on them or not. I still had no clue. After serving on council for 8 years, I had no idea how huge the chairman's job was. And I had a council member just last year before, when we were talking about perhaps raising the salaries or making it a full-time job or whatever, say, well, you can't work any more than I do. And I thought, oh my goodness, you have no clue, just like I didn't have a clue.
Right.
Because everybody wants to meet with the chairman. People want to show their projects to the chairman first. They want to call whoever's in charge.
As opposed to the person in their district. I mean, if they're coming from a district, they don't.
Well, they often call their own district person. But when it's a developer with a project or some new idea, or the leader here or there, meeting with the state people, going up to Columbia, different things like that. It's just the chairman's responsibility.
That is fascinating, Liz. Well, if you
development,
weren't so receptive, they would if you weren't so receptive and willing to go out of your way to be on top of everything, then possibly they wouldn't. I mean, they'd want to see you, but they wouldn't be able to. I mean, and I'm sure that's probably happened in the past.
It's everybody's choice.
Sure.
It's every council member's choice. A council job can be pretty much a full-time job,
right?
Or you can show up at the meetings, open your packet up then, shoot from the hip, and go about your merry life.
Yeah.
And I've seen folks that have done that.
Oh yeah. Fortunately, you have a very dedicated council there that you serve with, and I'm sure they're all very focused. And there's so many things we want to get into, and obviously those aspects for you and tomorrow we want to highlight some special pieces there on council and some big issues. But surely your faith has come across many ways to many folks, and it's been very singular at the same time, your dedication both to your family but also to Christ.
Thank you, and I hope so. I wrestled when I first got in the political arena, because I would look at my Bible study teacher and think, she is doing that for the Lord. What am I doing? I'm in the political arena where everybody's talking about separation of church and state, and I can't be a Christian out front. But I found, as I continued to just do what I was given to do, that there are ways of reflecting who I am, and people then ask, how do you do this or that? And I say, a lot of prayer. I've looked into the camera before at council meetings and said, if you're a praying person, I need your prayers on this. When I had knee replacement surgery some years ago, I just looked straight in the camera and said, if you are a believer and a praying person, I need your prayers for this. And I just don't, when I get to speak to groups individually, I'm a little more open. But that's who I am. And you can't separate that. And everything that I do in my job, I do it based on what I believe. Doing the most good I can to the most people in the best ways, and just trying to live up to what I believe and who I believe in.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Those are great words, Liz. I'm sorry we've run out of time. We'll look forward to, can we get you back tomorrow?
Absolutely, I'll be here.
Great, okay.
Thanks so much.
Stay tuned to more Carolina People with the Honorable Liz Gilland, Chairman of Horry County Council. Coming up next. Picture it. You heard those special words that she's signing her name and her hands are shaking. She can't even later read her name. That experience of spreading the word, you heard her talk about that aspect. God's role in her life in her youth, role in her life there as she's counseling to others in the college scene as a graduate student, and later up there at Furman, and then really helping to spread the word in Nashville. She brought that word back here, but think about it, taking it over to China, spreading the word and spreading Bibles all across that country, but knowing that even signing her name, being that nervous about it, those experiences are real. Those experiences are vivid. Those experiences are Liz. You heard her talk about it just being Liz. It was very exciting. You can learn more about her online at horrycounty.org, horrycounty.org, and learning about council, which we're going to talk a little about tomorrow. Come on back. Horry County Council, past, present, and future, tomorrow on Carolina People.